Hi again then guys, and welcome to the third installment of Unsung Heroes, a series where we shine a spotlight on vehicles, concept or production, which arguably deserve more recognition than they currently have, or just aren't that well known. Cars which may be super obscure, maybe there's only one or two of them built, but they're interesting. They offer something a bit oddball. Certainly if they offer something unique, maybe they're fast, but not necessarily. And the last installment is a perfect example of that, the Toyota Mega Cruiser. It's not a fast car by any means, but still a very interesting one. Now, this particular pick is a vehicle which there isn't a huge amount of chatter about online, at least from what I've seen. There aren't a huge amount of specs floating around. There are some, thankfully, and there's also not much video of this car that I could find either. So unfortunately, we're kind of light on the video side of things, and it's more images for this particular video. And the car is the Citroen Xsara Picasso Cup. This is a concept car which relatively few people talk about. I'm personally a big fan of the car, not because I'm a fan of the Picasso, but because I like crazy concepts like this that take people movers or minivans and then make them extreme. The ultimate example of that being, of course, the Renault Espace F1. Now, this car has no way near the spec or performance of the Renault Espace F1, and that's kind of a shame because it would have been a great rival to it, such as on racing games, but it is kind of the Picasso equivalent of that, or about as close to it as we can get, because in effect, the Renault Espace F1 is the people mover equivalent of a Formula 1 car. The Citroen Xsara Picasso Cup is the people mover equivalent of a rally car, and that's where it differs, because this particular Xsara is based around kit car class rally. It shares many underpinnings in terms of design, even the livery, the choice of colour and the style of the car overall is inspired by the Xsara WRC car, among other things. Now, the engine is taken from a normal Picasso, which is usually a 1.8 litre. It's bored out to 2 litres and turbocharged up to 235 horsepower. So as I said, it's no way near something like the Espace's 850 horsepower F1 engine, but compared to a normal Citroen Picasso, that's pretty good. Now, I wasn't able to find what the drivetrain of this car is, but given the fact that it's still a 5-seater, it's more likely than not still front engine, and I believe it's still front-wheel drive, given that the Xsara WRC car was also a front-wheel drive machine. Now, word on performance and even the weight of the vehicle is scarce. I don't know how much the car weighs. There may be that information out there, but I wasn't able to find it. But it's interesting to me that they still had this concept of at least some level of practicality there. It wasn't something like a Ford Supervan where they just took the basic idea of the van but totally gutted it out to make it in effect a race car. This still has the 5 seats, and it has at least some level of practicality still there. Now, that being said, of course, practicality is very limited on the car. It's not intended to be a production vehicle, and it actually wasn't designed or built by Citroen at all. It was designed and built by Sbarro, Italian designers. They've made some pretty crazy cars over the years. Again, mostly concept vehicles, and this is a great example of that. Now, one of the most visually striking things about the Picasso Cup isn't just the crazy body kit on the vehicle, which I personally think suits the car quite well, but it's actually the door arrangement, because usually, of course, it's a 4-door plus the hatchback. Now it's a 2-door, but it's still a 5-seater. So what they did is they gave it 2 big, crazy Goalwing doors, which are much larger than a typical Goalwing would be. They run the full length of the car so that you still get full access to the vehicle. And these Goalwing doors actually not only give it a crazy design, but also help the rigidity of the vehicle to help its cornering ability. So although it's not intended for racing, or certainly not for production, it does still give attention to the things that you would want the car to be capable of were you to actually take it around a track. Stuff like rigidity, actually being able to deal with having significantly more power and performance than a Picasso was ever realistically designed to have. So in the broad scheme of things, this isn't a car which is going to rock the performance car world, but you don't see many concept cars like this. Certainly not concept cars or show cars which take existing production models. Usually concept cars, of course, are ground-up creations. That's kind of the point. With this one, it's not. It's an existing car turned in a much more extreme direction. Again, very much so like the Espace F1. So overall, I personally find this to be an interesting car and certainly a worthy one of this series, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts of it down below, and of course, stick around on the channel for more like this in the future. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.